Today we're going to cover arguably one of the most hyped AI crypto projects that exists right now. Yes, it is Nillion. Let's get straight to it. Welcome back to another video. My name is Waj. We're going to cover a bunch of different things today, including first of all some of the problems around privacy, but then going on to what Nillion is, how it works. We'll talk about the design and the mechanics, and we'll talk about my personal opinion, bull case, bear case, and investment thesis. One thing to note, I am an investor in Nillion, so we'll make that disclaimer. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. We're going to first of all talk about these two apps. You probably recognize them, this Telegram and WhatsApp, and they have something called end-to-end encryption. And I just want to kind of explain how this works, just so that you kind of understand it, because it is important to appreciate what Nillion is all about. Now, first of all, let's say that I'm going to send, my mate a message, right? I'm going to say, hey, how's it going, mate? What happens is when I send this message is that it gets encrypted with my key by sending it to a server. And so the message ends up looking like this, a bunch of different letters and numbers, E488 DKD, KD, whatever. Now my friend Bob, he has a key that can be used to decrypt the above. And that's what happens when I send him a message. And so Bob can now read, hey, how's it going, mate? Now, I think this is great for social apps, especially when you want to send information to a friend, and encryption is very, very important. And so privacy actually really matters. It's a little bit different, however, when you start sending this information to other companies or even AI models. And I think in today's world, a world powered by AI and only enhancing with that, we've seen this phrase time and time again, data is the new oil. Data remains the most important thing when it comes to training AI models. However, there's often a ton of data that we actually want to use to train these AI models or use for these AI models. Super valuable, but at times we just can't use it because it just doesn't have that encryption that we often need. Now, I've written a few points here about kind of what AI actually needs to help improve to go to the next level. A lot of AI models are actually trained on public data or data that's scraped from the internet, which I think is fantastic. But I think for AI to jump to that next level and actually become personal, you need personal data. And there's a few different levels to personal data. There are a few different aspects. So I thought I'll kind of explain them, kind of how Nillion like to explain them. And they use this kind of 3-level format. Well, level 1 is kind of like your public data, stuff that you post on social media, maybe even some of the stuff that I have in this video that I'm making right now, maybe some of the tweets that I put on Twitter. The idea is that most people are okay with this data being on the internet. It's already public anyway. You then have like level 2 data, which is like your browser history, your cookies, your IP address, your background app history. At times, some of this data can actually be public, and we often give it away to some of the big tech giants as well. But similarly, there isn't really too much that isn't already done here when it comes to using this data for powering AI models. But level 3 is a different thing altogether. Level 3 is very personal data that most people, including yourself and myself, do not want to share with anyone whatsoever. But it's this data that can often be the most valuable in training AI models and really helping them get to that next level. And these are level 3 data points. And I've written just a few random ones that are on screen in this graphic here. But this can be things like, emails or text messages that you've sent to people, your verbal conversations that are recorded, if you've ever gone to a therapist, stuff that you've spoken to them, stuff about your dignity even. Even things like the lies that you've told, your medical history, transaction data, anything that you've purchased, your opinions about people, places, yourself, your relationship with friends and family, right? You want to keep this stuff to yourself, or you want to keep it private. But this stuff, if you use it to train these AI models, can actually make AI become very personal and maybe even enhance your life in ways that you just couldn't imagine right now. Do we trade privacy for the personal AI experience we all desire? Well, absolutely not. But perhaps we have a solution, and perhaps Nillion is part of that. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, kind of what Nillion is and how it works to help bring this privacy-enabled future that we all really desire. Now, what is Nillion? It's a network for computation of data via these things called privacy-enhancing techniques, and I'm going to refer to them as pets for the rest of this video. Now, it's essentially a new type of network for people to build these apps that enable private computation without revealing the data on them, this kind of encryption that we talked about before. So what are PETs, or privacy enhancing techniques? There's a whole range of different ones. We're just going to cover a few of them just so you understand what they are, but Nillion uses a wide range of these in order to power the applications running on it. So ZK proofs, some of you probably know of what ZK proofs are, but ZK proof stands for zero knowledge proofs. It's a way of essentially proving something that's true without you showing how you know it or sharing any extra information. It's like saying, I know the secret and I can prove it to you, but I won't actually tell you the secret itself. Now, here's an example of like what it actually means. Like, and this will help you appreciate how a ZK proof works. Now, imagine you have a locked treasure chest somewhere and it contains some gold coins, and you want to prove to someone that you know the key to open up that treasure chest. Now, instead of just like saying, oh, look, the key is like 9745 or whatever the key is, or opening the chest right in front of them, you can go into the private room with that chest, open it, come back with the gold coin, make sure you close it as well. And then that person knows that you have the key because you could open it, but they never saw you with the key and they never actually saw you do it. That's basically how ZK proofs work, proving something without actually revealing any details. Now, there is another one called homomorphic encryption, or FHE at times. It's just a cryptographic technique that allows encrypted data to have computation on it. And this includes like removing the decryption stage and mitigating some of the vulnerabilities that would have happened if it would be decrypted. However, this doesn't really work when there's more than two parties, and that's where something like multi-party computation, or MPC, comes into place, which again is another cryptographic technique, another privacy enhancing technique that requires multiple parties, which we call nodes, to carry out a single computation task involving their private data, or involving some sort of private data, but not allowing each of these other nodes to know what that private data is. And this means that each node, like, their data has to be kept private from the rest, but at the same time they all have to collaborate on this one thing in order to get a valid output at the end, and that can be seen by every publishing node or participating node. Cypher Research, great guys, make sure you follow them on Twitter, made this lovely graphic, and I thought I'd have to share this and give some credits to them because it's really nice to just highlight some of the different privacy enhancing techniques that Nillion use. We mentioned FHEs, we mentioned ZK proofs, which aren't on here, but we also mentioned MPC. There is another one called TEEs, or Trusted Execution Environments. Again, we've actually covered them on the channel before, but these are just a few of the different encrypted inputs that you can use to help with getting these privacy preserved outputs. And this is, better than having like non-privacy technology, especially because when you are encrypting, there is some potential risk when you're decrypting or re-encrypting things as well. So this is just some of the things that Nillion are able to use. We'll go into a little bit more detail in terms of how Nillion actually works, and this will help you understand a little bit more about the project as well. So Nillion have two main components, PetNet and NIL Chain. So we'll cover NIL Chain first because it's a little bit more straightforward. It's powered by Cosmos SDK, but a NIL Chain is essentially the component of Nillion that orchestrates the tasks related to payments, interactions with different applications as well, very much on the front end. And PetNet is the bit under the hood that contains all of these blind modules and these privacy enhancing techniques that we've talked about, and they handle the things like storage, inference, and computation. And these two components interact with one another when it comes to applications. The next example is really going to help you appreciate how it works on a front-end application, and maybe this will help you understand all of this as well. So let's say you've got a front-end application and you're a user and you want to interact with this to submit some data for storage. Maybe it's some of your personal data, maybe it's some text messages, or maybe it's doing some computation or running some inference on an AI model. Whatever that kind of app is, right, you can have privacy enabling elements through Nillion. Now what happens is the app will then interact with the coordination layer, or NIL chain, for payment and processing of this computation that's required. This is, you have to pay with a bit of NIL tokens for this. And in fact, I think a lot of this will be abstracted away, so you as a user don't actually feel this whatsoever. Now, The coordination layer, or this NIL chain, then processes this payment for request, and this request goes to PetNet, which is obviously this main thing under the hood, which has these privacy enhancing techniques. Now these are then, like, it can use a variety of them. It doesn't have to just use, a ZK proof, or it doesn't have to use an MPC. Each privacy enhancing technique is tailor-made to the specific application that's required. Sometimes a TEE will be better, sometimes maybe another PET is better. And these computations are then performed across a variety of different nodes. Each node in the PetNet manages just one fragment of the encrypted data. And then the nodes perform this computation, and then they generate partial outputs. The PetNet then aggregates these partial outputs, puts them all together, feeds it back to the coordination layer, and then back to the smart contract or the front end. And maybe this graphic can kind of help you appreciate this if we look at it from left to right, where you kind of upload some private data. This goes to a variety of different nodes who all have a little bit of a part to play by computing just a small fragment of it. And then the pet chain basically aggregates all of this together and creates this output overall. Maybe you can pause the video here and have a look at this graphic as well. But as mentioned, the data gets broken into shards, distributed across a variety of different nodes, who then perform that one computation task on that individual piece of shard. They get aggregated all together at the end, and then sent to the front end or to the application. And that's pretty much how Nillion works. Now, what can you use Nillion for? There's a whole range of different things, and again, I've put them on screen. This can be things from like healthcare data, which I'm very fond of myself, but also things like training AI, as we mentioned, quantum messaging, multi-factor authentication, gaming stuff, you name it, right? Anything to do with privacy or anything that needs any element of privacy, you can use Nillion for it. And as I mentioned, healthcare is something that I'm very fond of course. And look, here's an example, right? So you've got this chest X-ray over here. Thankfully, this chest X-ray is looking very normal. I don't see any obvious consolidation or opacities there. But if you've got this X-ray, and it's your X-ray, you want to keep it private, especially if you want to upload it somewhere, or you want to train an AI model on these different X-rays so that it's able to work out what's good and what's not good. If it's got some personal data on it, you want to keep it secure. And so you can use something like Nillion here in order to basically help with masking this data. And as you can see, this image gets broken down into a bunch of different shards, which by themselves make it really, really hard to know what the hell is going on here. In this node, I can't see this X-ray whatsoever. These nodes will then essentially mask all of these different images, and then the pet chain will essentially aggregate all of this together, and you'll have your output at the end. And there's a whole range of different apps being built for this. Here's another one, keeping AI conversations private by running these Llama and DeepSeek models, mobile apps as well, a whole range of different things. In fact, the ecosystem's thriving already. There's integrations with chains, AI protocols, messaging apps, social apps, healthcare stuff, which I think is really, really cool. DePin, DeFi, gaming, you name it. There's a ton of stuff that's happening in the Nillion ecosystem, and it's expanding quite a lot. I think for me, some of the interesting things right now is seeing the integrations with chains, the likes of NIR and Aptos and Say and Arbitrum and a bunch of others as well. This is really, really important for not only the storage of data from some of your favorite applications, not only just like data management or private AI for computation, but also stuff like private asset management, where I think, eventually, we're going to try and store some of our wealth on chain, having some element of privacy around it where you can prove that it's there because it's a blockchain, but at the same time, you might not want to have your name directly attached to it, showcasing it to the entire world. It's just something that I think it can be really, really interesting, especially in the world of asset management. Nillion, of course, are working with a bunch of AI protocols as well, a big one being Ritual, a big name in the space as well right now, enabling the processing of sensitive data, again, without revealing its content. That's something that they're going to be doing as well. I actually noticed that Nillion are also working with Meta, the Web2 tech giant, of course, and what's really interesting is that they're looking to create a privacy-preserving LLM. It's called Curl, I believe, and it uses these MPC framework techniques for privacy preserving computation for these LLMs. It's like a private LLM using cryptographic techniques as well. So something like this is going to be really interesting. I'm not sure how far along the process they are in terms of building this and getting this out there, but I mean, this is pretty insane. They worked on a collaborative white paper, so this is something that's in the work, and I think just goes to show, like, again, what Nillion can be used for. There is a builders program as well, so maybe some of you guys watching have an idea of creating some sort of privacy preserving application, and you can use Nillion's tech, and maybe you can get some rewards or some grants to help accelerate this as well. So yeah, definitely worth looking into there. Now, Nillion are going to have a token. Perhaps by the time you're watching this video, the token is actually live. I'm not too sure what day it's going to be live exactly, but yeah, maybe by the time you're watching this, the token is live. And the token is ticker NIL. It's got a few different functions. It's actually the gas token for the network, and so it will be used by NIL chain itself. It's actually needed in the blind computation process as well, required for transfer, storage, compute functions, and this is paid for by either the applications or the users who are going for or requiring that computation anyway. In return, those clusters or those nodes who actually facilitate that computation are actually rewarded in NIL for providing resources to the network. NIL is also needed for staking, securing the chain. Staking accrues voting power. You can use this for deciding actions based on validators who are within the active set or not within the active set. There's also a governance function as well, voting on on-chain proposals, coordination layer, delegating voting, blah, 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 a bunch of different things there as well. 1 billion token supply, initial float 20%. Yeah, that's it really. I've just put some graphics in regards to the token allocation. You can see a 20% community, fairly reasonably big airdrop from what I can tell from people, which has been, yeah, positive to see. I think one other positive is, over the next 12 months, there's not really that much inflation when it comes to circulating supply as well, which I think is great for speculation purposes as well. Team is pretty based, I should say. You got Alex Page, the CEO, but also a bunch of these other fantastic people who you can all read up on their background. But my gosh, this is a stacked team. Miguel does a bunch of different podcasts. I've watched a ton of his stuff, which has been really, really useful in me understanding how Nillion works. But these guys have backgrounds from Goldman Sachs, Uber, Hedera, HBAR, a bunch of really, really like success stories anyway. And yeah, great to see. I think one thing that I really like about this team is, man, these guys know how to do marketing. And I think that's been great. We're going to also cover the bull case and the bear case and my investment thesis at the end. So again, as mentioned at the start of this video, nothing here is financial advice. It's just me just rattling on a few of my personal opinions and points. If we look at the product itself, privacy-based computation is a massive need. I see so many different industries where you can use a product like this, not only in crypto, but outside of crypto too. And I think when you're using crypto rails, I think it just is really, really fantastic. And that's kind of what really got me interested in something like this, especially for a sector like healthcare, which, I really relate to, having seen so many issues with data and privacy and people's healthcare as a doctor. I think, as I mentioned, in a world moving towards a fully autonomous-based system across all sectors, especially with AI, we need something like this. Privacy is so important, and I think there is a real need for more privacy-based applications. And finally, you can build your own. In fact, you can build no-code applications as well from Nillion, which I think is fantastic. The ecosystem's already growing pretty well. You have a bunch of the top chains as well already integrated, and a bunch of different protocols, even Meta from Web 2, of course, which I think is great. Team, very experienced, history of success. They've actually raised a lot of money as well, over $50 million too. I think from a token perspective and a speculation perspective, it's hitting multiple narratives from privacy to AI and crypto all in one. These guys know how to do marketing. I think good airdrop for many people. AI tokens have generally performed pretty well, especially in the new shiny tokens. Binance listing day one as well, which is quite nice too. I noticed, Nillion is actually number one on Kaito when it comes to pre-TGE tokens as well. Definitely doing well when it comes to mindshare. with the likes of Monad and Pump and, you know, OpenSea, etc., which I think has been great. Bear case, look, I think there's still a few points that I have mentioned, and I think it's only right for me to mention a few of the things. Not everything is going to be rosy and green, but I think there's still a bit of time before there are some really key, you know, those power applications that everyone is using. I think we're still quite a while away from that. And of course, it just takes, you know, 1 or 2 applications to really blow and go crazy, and Nillion will be everywhere. But I'm not sure if we have these killer applications just yet. And if we have like real products that, you know, all of us want to use every single day, maybe we'll get that with the Meta LLM. Who knows? How much revenue does Nillion generate? How much do they charge for some of these integrations? How much does it cost? I think there's still a bit of unknowns, and there are some opaqueness about AI protocols and revenue from time to time. Something that I'll try and find out, and if I do find out, I'll share it with you guys. But this is something that I'm not too sure about just yet. There is this other kind of more philosophical question regarding governments around the world cracking down on privacy. You know, is there going to be something there? I think recent news regarding privacy businesses and privacy protocols has been really, really good. And so I think we're on the road to we're on some sort of road of improvement there. But I do just think it is just something to think about. And then I guess from a token perspective as well, like where are we in the cycle? You know, are we in the mid cycle, end cycle? I don't actually know, to be honest with you. What's the market sentiment on new tokens as well? I'm not too sure. And how do AI tokens perform from here onwards? Again, we've had some massive run-ups for AI tokens. And now we're kind of in this lull phase potentially. I'm not too sure how things are going to perform from here, especially AI wise. Nvidia is on a pretty big dip as well as we speak right now. So maybe I'm just thinking short term, and maybe long term this isn't really a problem. But I think, yeah, for you short term speculators, those of you who are watching the video now, maybe this is something to just think about too. What is the valuation that NIL will launch at too? You know, will it launch at a really high valuation where the upside is kind of capped? Again, just something that I think is worth thinking about there. And I'll just write in some general points about an investment thesis. Again, I think I could probably go in a little bit more detail once the token actually comes out, but I think it's a little bit premature for me to do this. But I think if we take, you know, the bull case from the product, the ecosystem, you know, the team, the mind share, the raise, things look really, really good already. So I think it is a token that is biddable actually. And I think there can be a lot more leverage that comes from some of these ecosystem and integrations, especially the chains, and so maybe some of the apps that come out that use Nillion tech as well. The main questions here really come from like the valuation perspective. You know, if we look at like some of the AI tokens today, you got Kaito, written circulating market cap on the left and FTVs on the right. And you're looking at like the $300-400 million mark for some of the newer tokens like Kaito, Grass as well. Whereas some of the more established ones are a little bit more. FTV wise, they're kind of in the same range, you know, between let's say 1.3 to $2 billion. You've got Akash as the outlier there, really. It's one of the highest mindshare pre-TGE protocols, so I think like it's gonna be in that ballpark. And with the 20% initial float and only increasing to 30% by 12 months, you know, you're looking at something like, you know, if it's 1 billion FTV, a 200 million market cap, 300 million, 1.5 billion, I have a feeling that it's going to be somewhere in this ballpark. I'm not too sure where exactly, but I think I can kind of compare it to some of these others as well. I think like Kaito and Grass especially, I'm going to kind of base my evaluation of NIL around these a little bit. But of course there is a lot of work to do, and I think there will be a lot more to see in due time. But yeah, I think that really covers, you know, what you really need to know about Nillion for now. You know, perhaps I can do some updates in due time, especially once we see some more applications, and we can do some application reviews around this as well. But you know, as someone who really loves AI, as someone who is a big protagonist for kind of using AI in a variety of different settings and outside of crypto as well, something like healthcare as well, where I think we definitely need privacy-enabled AI. Maybe Nillion is the solution. Who knows? Anyway, that's what we'll cover today. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'm really, really interested to see if this is something that you guys find interesting too. Either way, I'll be back with more deep dives in the not so distant future. Take care and bye-bye.